Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good any time of the day or night, wherever you are. Peace and blessings. And thank you for joining me again with just a little bit of your time. Um, so, what I want to do is get right back into uh, what we were discussing with the Willie Lynch letter and the making of a slave, and particularly that part that said possible interloping negatives. Uh, this really gets down into the meat, so to speak, of what the intent of the opaques was. I, it's unbelievable the things that these people did, just so that they could enslave another people with the express intention of becoming wealthy. And they're still doing it today, but we just don't have the whole slavery, physical slavery scene in front of us. So we don't attach what we're going through now to what our ancestors went through. But they talked about these interloping factors, and they talked about making it so that we had no way to connect ourselves to Africa, to our culture. You know, basically they wanted us to have the impression that we didn't come from anywhere, we weren't connected to any people, and, you know, we didn't really have a story. You know, we were just kind of here, sort of dumped on the earth and left to fend for ourselves. Not true. But anyway, I'm just saying that they didn't want us to be able to make any substantial historical, cultural connections. Now, I will submit this, that one of the reasons, and one of the main big reasons, that they were not going to be successful in that is our skin, the color of our skin, our features. You know, it was automatically going to take us back to where we came from culturally, historically, naturally, okay? And it's the one thing that they tried to use against us. It's the one thing that separated us from all of them. You know, they just, no. You know, listen, I, what I'm stating here is not fact, I'm sorry, is fact. It's not meant to be offensive, but at the same time, if I'm talking to you, I'm talking to you. If I'm not talking to you, I'm not talking to you. Okay? But you can't take a glass of milk, right, and then draw from the glass of milk, the glass of milk, darker shades. It can't produce that. Now, if you put darker shades in the milk, it can produce that. But with the milk itself, it cannot produce that. We are a people unique in our color and unique in the attributes that we were blessed with. And we were, and still are, fearfully and wonderfully made. Don't forget that. That's what we are. But anyway, our skin touched that substantial, original, historical origin. That's the one thing, I mean, they couldn't do. They couldn't take an eraser and make our skin look different. They tried. They tried to make us look different. They tried to make us look other. Remember when I talked about that phenomena of illusions? That's what that meant. When this book spoke about taking that good white blood and coming up with all these different colors, that was all an attempt to separate us, remove us from our origins, our substantial cultural, historical origins. That's all that was, because they had visited, they had been there, they had looked and they had seen and observed, and they knew that this was not going to be an easy task. And the only way that they could have a modicum of success was to remove us and take away from us and sort of obscure for us the path and the way back to who we were. You know, there were a lot of things that were not allowed during slavery. And they did everything they could to confuse the issue, to turn us in against each other, and for a while it worked. But now, I like to call it the Great Awakening. We are awakening to who not only we came from, not only who we were, but who we are today. And we're getting to that point where we are going to claim our truth and our authentic heritage. Okay, so the skin, they're never going to get away with that. We're always going to look like this. Even if you look at someone who is mixed with other people, you know, you can look at them and tell that they're not originally what those people were or are. So now, I'm reading from some notes, so if I bow my head down, I'm not trying to be rude, I'm just reading from some notes that I have right here. Now, they said that their experts advised that the best way to deal with the phenomenon is to shave off our mental memory and create a multiplicity of phenomena illusions, which I was just talking about that. Okay, and sometimes I think about the things that these opaque people did, and I think, what kind of mind? What? You know? But these illusions were an instance of wrong or misinterpreted perception. That's what illusion means. It means a deceptive appearance or impression, and it means a false ideal or belief. So it was always to constantly keep us in a realm of deception. And I can't remember who said this. Somebody, if you know what I'm talking about, but there was someone, I think it was a poet, can't remember who said, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when once we practice to deceive." Okay? And these people practice deception almost every single day of their life, every breath, whether knowingly or unknowingly. And when I say that, I mean maybe some of the children, when they were children, did not understand, you know, they saw things and witnessed things and they thought it was natural because that's what they were told. So they did not intentionally deceive, but they carried on the deception. And at some point in time in their lives, something in their spirit should have told them that something was wrong. And I believe that in many of them, that time came where they knew it was wrong, but they turned a blind eye to it, and they decided not to recognize what it was. And again, these opaque people are here today. Their descendants are here today. Just like we are African descendants, they're here today. And these are some of the people that you see going around the country talking about this is our country, and speaking against every single other group of people that is not their group. It's not of the opaque group. Yeah, they're trying to get rid of them. Yeah. Saying this is ours and we fought for it and we did. Okay. I'm just saying. That's what they say. Okay. Now, they talk about, because I think this is what I'm looking at. They talk about crossbreeding Africans, impregnating African women, opaque men, with various features of opaque men, then breeding the offspring with each other until the desired color, features, and characteristics that is desired materialize. And that was one way, but we're going to talk about something that I believe here in a little bit too. I believe it. I can't. I'm just saying I believe that's what occurred. Okay, so in other words, they mix or breed the Africans with white men, then interbred and rebred, and the multiplicity will be so great and the effect so broad that retracing their roots will be nearly impossible. And some inbreeding will result in sterilization, ending some hereditary lines, because the heredity is through the male. So if some of those men wound up sterilized, that was it. That was it. There was no possibility of extending that heritage unless, well, no, if they were sterile, there was no possibility at all. Okay. Now, so they would end the hereditary lines forever, neither knowing where the other came from, and neither for itself nor with the other. So this is the part. This is my belief. This is the part I was talking about just earlier. It's my belief that since these opaque people literally, they just were wicked and evil, and I think that they literally attempted to breed Africans with horses and mules. Why? Because the text reads like this: put the N words and the horses in the breeding pot. A pot is where you stir, you stir things up. Mix some mules and some good white blood, and what do you get? Okay? You got a multiplicity of colors because you've had this white blood mixed, right? And it says backward, unusual N-words, running, tied to backward, long-headed mules. The production of itself, the other sterile. The one constant, and they said that they would keep the African constant because they could always replace the mule with something else. And then the other dying. Both mule and N-word tied to each other. That tied meant bred. I believe that they did some experiments. I believe that they came up with some literal monsters. I believe that they did everything they could to produce a creature that was a mix between an African, whether it was an African female that had been mated with a male horse or mule, or whether it was a man, an African man who impregnated a horse or mule. They were trying, when they say inbred, that's what they were trying to do. When they say tie, tie them together, I believe that's what they were trying to do. So here's what I want to say. I'm a little bit way over what I normally where I normally am. So I want to stop it right here. I want to say peace and blessings, and y'all listen to this stuff. I'm not making this up. These people wrote it down, and for whatever reason thought it was a good idea to leave it where somebody could pick it up and read it. But anyway, stay woke. Stay woke, y'all. Don't sleep. Don't sleep. Stay woke. Love y'all. See you next time.